All right. Welcome everyone. Revenue Roadmap, where we talk about revenue and increasing profits in local businesses. I'm Anthony Karls, president of RocketClicks. Today, I am joined again by my friend and AI mentor, Shea. Nice to have you here again today.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk a little bit more about SEO. We're going to talk about two concepts. We're trying to make it simple. First concept is trying to understand what SEO is and how getting a seat at the table works, and how getting what you have to say at the table having authority, how that works, and why if you do those two things well, rank and you will get lots of traffic. But if you do only one, likely have issues. So talk a little bit about that. Before we jump into that, I have my fun little question for Casey here. So Casey, what advice would you give to someone starting out in digital marketing today?
Oh, man. Honestly, the thing that helped me the most is changing your own algorithm. So, with socials, don't really do socials, but what I do, it's like the whole algorithm is just digital marketing, everything. It's a whole lot of it. It's gross. Like my wife takes my phone to scroll on socials and she just hands it back. Like there's no interest there. But to me, like just seeing that constant flood of information and insights from experts and learning from the experts what they've done correctly and what they've done wrong, that's really what springboarded me forward.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So SEO, very complicated topic. I think people generally make this more complicated than it is. And then it feels like wizardry, like you're part of Lord of the Rings. My wife and I just finished watching both Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit in the last 3 weeks. And believe it or not, SEOs are not Gandalf, but like them to be. You can still pretend they are. We just won't wear the pointy hat. So SEO is really two concepts. One concept is getting a seat at the table, and we'll talk about what that means. And the second concept is making sure when you do have a seat at the table, what you have to say actually matters so you can keep it. And we'll talk a little bit about each. First one is for the computers. Casey often likes to describe SEO as the bridge between the bots and the humans, or you have a saying for it. What is it again?
But we're the interpreters with humans and robots. Robot and human.
So the first one, how do you get a seat at the table? It's about how do you talk to the robot so that you can have an opportunity to have a real conversation with actual users, because we all know based on our own activity, most of us won't do anything outside of the first page and really the first couple search results. So once you have a seat at the table, how do you make sure you keep your seat at the table? So let's first define what does it mean to get a seat at the table? Like, what does that mean? Because there's a lot of components there. A lot of it's technical on-site, technical off-site. What are all those components? What is it?
Without getting too deep, it's basically getting the robots to have a clear understanding of what it is that you do. And most of all, what it is that you're going to provide users, because at the end of the day, we're trying to end the search. We don't want to just continue to move on, searching. When on this page, you've probably run through it 100 times where, you go to search for something, you open up the first page and it's nothing like you want. So it's like robots are understanding that, they're feeling it out. So there are a lot of components that we have to put together to make sure that there's a clear understanding that we are showing up for the right things in the search results.
Yeah. You said something interesting there. So like one piece of SEO that I think is misunderstood or maybe not focused on enough is how Google measures success. And I know one thing that we talk about a lot here at RocketClicks is we believe Google measures success by terminating search. And what that means is someone will they'll type a query into Google, they'll start interacting with the page. And if your site can successfully stop that user from going back to Google and continue to research that same exact topic, you've likely won the search engagement, because Google's going to see that as good, because what that is in Google's eyes is that user now trusts I'm going to deliver them a result, and then they're not going to have to retype in a million things to try to find the result they're actually looking for. So we want to do as SEOs is how do we terminate the search? You mentioned some of that is talking to the bots. Can you talk through some technical components of what that looks like? I think we generally break it up into 3 to 4 buckets here. That rock clicks, depending on how you want to slice it. What are those technical components? What is Google looking for? What are search engines looking for? So that we actually get a seat at the table, an opportunity to have a conversation.
So the first and foremost, like whenever I'm doing any kind of technical SEO, which is communicating to the bot, is I always look at efficiencies. So Google spends a lot of money and energy to run these machines. So they're going to look for the most efficient way. If your site is super complicated to like try and figure out and understand for the robots, you're less likely to be put onto the first or even the second page. So first and foremost, you have to look at how the site is structured. Is it easy for the robot to crawl, or is there a whole bunch of dead ends where it has to go back and try and figure out the next page? Is it able to, first and foremost, understand what your meta titles and descriptions are? So like the information that you see firsthand in the search results, is that accurate? That's your billboard. And if you don't have your billboard set up correctly, it's going to be a lot less likely for anyone to click on it at all.
Yeah. Or they click on it and it's not what they expected. Something entirely different.
Yeah, because there's a lot of times too where it's like someone will have a plugin that their web developer just kind of slapped in there. And what this plugin does is it just takes random information on the page and it thinks that, oh, this page is about a checking account, when actually it's for a savings account. It briefly talks about checking accounts. So it's like you're presenting the complete wrong information, the wrong build. So it's having the understanding of how to structure things so the bot can understand it first and foremost.
Yeah. So it's looking for, crawlability of the site, ease of access from a site architecture perspective. What else? So I think we got like 8 things here we wanted to like briefly touch on, and we'll go deeper into all these in the future here.
So of course it's going to be the site architecture, crawlability. It's about, I believe it's about 80% of users are using their mobile phone. So we want to make sure that it's got the good responsiveness. I'm sure we've all come across a website that was not optimized for mobile. We're on our phone and it's like, ugh, we just back out right away, even though it probably had a solution to whatever it was that we were searching for. We don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And then it's also your heading structures. So I'll never forget, I worked on a client once and they're like, we get 0 traffic on our site, like nothing. I was like, all right, let me take a look. There were 77 H1s, and H1 is the most important information. This is the title of your book. And they had 77 of them on their homepage.
Nice.
People had no idea how to rank them. And then from there, like my bread and butter, my favorite thing is going to be the internal linking. To me, internal linking that's your workhorse. It's how everything is connected together. If you only imagine if roads were just kind of scattered all about, that's how a lot of sites look at first. We come in, we make sure everything is connected correctly. The right topics are connecting to the right topics. And it just improves not only crawlability, but also like how users flow through your site too.
Yeah. Awesome. So those are all on-site technical pieces. There's also some off-site technical pieces. You talked a little bit about interlinking. That's a pretty good segue into some of the off-page sites. I know one of the illustrations we have for interlinking is essentially a house. Like it's the power that's wired throughout your home.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not done right, it can be pretty dangerous. Same thing is true on a website. And if it's not connected to the grid, it also might not matter how well your site's interlinked at all, because you might not be getting any power from the grid to your site. So talk a little bit about off-page SEO and how that works and what we try to do there.
Yeah, with off-page, it's anything being connected from your social accounts, making sure that if we're going to put a post up, we have something linking back to our website to confirm that information. And it's just like an extra signal. And then also making sure, especially it's vital for our local websites where we want to have our name, address, and phone number. You would not believe how many are incorrect out there that people just are not aware of. But backlinking is huge. So in the past, it got a bad rep because what people were doing is just dumping backlinks and like buying them up from all these like weird sites, international, whatever it is. But when it's done correctly, it can actually give like a ton of juice to your website. And done correctly is having something that is a related source. You don't want to have a backlink, even though it's like getting a ton of traffic. It has like great authority meaning like it's very trusted in the community, very trusted to Google. But like if I have a law website, I don't want a backlink from Frogs Unlimited. It has nothing to do with each other. So it's going to hurt ourselves more so than anything else. And that's really what Google is looking for, is making sure that backlink has good authority and it's related somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to make sure that the page it's coming from is related to that in some way, shape, or form. And it's not some like weird page on some random part of the site that's just there literally for backlinks, because people can see all of that as well.
Yeah.
So those are all everything we just talked about is technical. These are all things that will help you get a seat at the table. If the first page of Google is a round table and there's a head of the round table, and that's essentially your first results, that person gets to speak first typically, because that's where people click. All of the technical things will help get you a seat at the table, essentially, if you're doing it right. Once a user is on the site, now you have to say something. And remember, the whole point of SEO it's our belief is the whole point of SEO from Google's perspective is to terminate the search, so that they don't go back to Google, search the same similar columns and bounce around, because that creates a negative user experience from Google's perspective, because they're trying to build trust. Every time they deliver a result, you click on one thing, you get your answer, come back to Google, do it again and again. And that's how they've established it. I think legitimate monopoly now. It's another topic. But mentioned that's Google's goal, is how do people get to us, see the information, stop searching for that information, answer their question. So if we get a seat at the table, what do we need to be thinking about as it pertains to the on-page user experience? Like how do we think?
Biggest thing with on-page is there was a study that was done and it showed that if a user doesn't know exactly what you do within the first 3 seconds of reading a page, they'll bounce. So within 3 seconds, you have to deliver exactly what it is, but you need to solve their intent. Understanding the user's intention on why they're on this page. If they're on the home page, what part of the funnel they're on, and understanding that as well, and being able to fulfill that so that we give them an answer so that they will engage further in the page. They shouldn't be searching for the answer all the way at the bottom of the page, like a lot of sites we see.
Yeah.
So making sure that it's 3 seconds, that's all you get.
Anything else here on overall SEO and how to maintain your seat? That we talked about?
The only other component is really being strategic on how you are preparing yourself for AI search, because it's a new search engine that a lot of people are just not thinking about. They're really focused on Bing and Google, but now you have this other elephant in the room that perceives things slightly different, but it's just putting more emphasis on those backlinkings and your reviews, and like basically, look at the directories and reviews as like, those are your neighbors. You're a new person that just moved in on the block. What are your neighbors saying about you? Because that's what AI is going to look at first. So you always want to make sure that you're in good standing with your neighbor first.
Yeah. And that's something like making sure on all the main directories you have some positive reviews.
Correct.
If they're using AI to say like, give me the best lawyer in XYZ area, I don't know what the frequency now, it used to be longer, about every 6 months. They might be refreshing the AI language database much more. No. If you have negative reviews on some of these other directories, you're likely to show it best searches for a particular service doing that on AI. They're using aggregate, not just so Google's a source of information, not the only source.
And that could all change even faster with some things that Google is even talking about with having like real-time live access to Google search for AI. So
Yeah.
like I said, just being prepared.
It's interesting. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you for conversation through the components of SEO. Main takeaway for me is how do we help terminate search for Google and set ourselves up for success in the next iteration of the world with AI. So appreciate your time here, Shea. Look forward to our next convo.